Morning, everyone. We had to get the recorder going. I see we have the whole committee here, and Glenn, Dave on Zoom, and Dan Klein and I are here in chambers. Are there any changes to the agenda this morning? Let's ask, is there any public comment this morning? We want to be heard. No one in chambers. Moving right along. Chair's report. Heard this morning that the Bridge New York grants have been awarded for this round, and maybe Jeff is going to be able to tell us more about that. I think we did get an email from him, so when we get down the highway, he'll be telling us about that. That's really all I have this morning. Lisa, do you want to talk to us?
Good morning. Sure, I can provide a few updates. Most of my updates at this time are around COVID, but so I'll be brief. And but you know, we've still been seeing sustained rises in the number of cases, most of which are coming from our college student population. Currently, we're at about 1,100 positive cases, which is at the highest number since the start of the pandemic. However, the number of hospitalizations remains low, still at around 10. So that's telling us that the disease severity is still low. We're awaiting the sequencing on the positive cases. We know initially that many are pointing to the Omicron variant, and awaiting on that. We are, and then, you know, still focusing on the other front of the immunization front through the health department. They are going back, well, actually now are holding youth vaccination clinics locally within school districts, beginning with Newfield Elementary and Lansing Elementary. And the information on those clinics are being shared directly with families. And then, as you know, we've launched a web form to help individuals and businesses comply with the mask or vaccination requirement that came out began this Monday through New York State. So people can go on the health department website to lodge a complaint, or they can call 211. So very busy, particularly through our staff at the health department on these fronts.
I'm glad to hear the hospital rates are staying low, although we did hear about the 4 deaths that
Yes.
was reported.
Yes, unfortunately, 3 of the 4 were through a local nursing facility.
And I did hear on the ride down on the radio about the announcement about the Newfield School vaccination clinic.
Yes.
Koreman.
Was that me?
That's you, Ann Koreman.
Okay, it was a little, I couldn't understand that. Okay. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Lisa. I'm a little tired. I've had evening meetings for several nights in a row. So I was just looking at the active cases up to 1,489. Quite astounding. But yes, I'm glad the hospitalization is staying low. But it's just pretty scary. And I just keep telling people to rethink your holiday plans, whatever they are. Again, thanks for everybody's doing it at the administration, health department, and all around the county, you know, with our staff. And I know this is taking a huge effort from every department to try and deal with this. Do you know any idea? I imagine we're still just backed up on trying to do contact tracing. And are we doing the contact tracing for the colleges? I'm sure I'm supposed to know that, but I forgot.
Great questions, Anne. So no, yes. We are, the colleges have taken on their own case investigation and contact tracing. The health department has worked with the colleges to give that back because that stretches our capacity too far. So that is a good thing, and they are handling their own student populations. I heard from Frank this morning that we are caught up with our current case investigations, which is great. So we are we're caught up there. And thank you for a shout out to about holiday plans and just reminders for the general public that we know the right things to do, and we are emphasizing and messaging those things, which are, you know, just to wear masks indoors, that, you know, we can rethink how we do our holiday gatherings in terms of, yes, continue to gather, maybe gather more, you know, in smaller numbers, and or wear masks when you're mixing households. We will continue to message those tips that we know very well how to limit the spread.
Thank you. When I was getting off the meeting last night, it wasn't a municipal meeting, but it was at the very end, and they were like, "Oh, happy holidays, and don't worry. I think most of you are vaccinated, so you don't have anything to worry about." And they were like shutting down the meeting, and I was like, "No!" It's like you still have to follow all the protocols to be vaccinated or to be masked and social distance and right, having to deal with other family members from that you don't live with. So thank you again.
Arthur Robertson.
Thank you very much. Wow, 1,400. This is something. Lisa, do we have any idea of where people are being housed while they're isolated? I mean, that would fill up a lot of hotels.
Yeah, my understanding is that Cornell is utilizing hotel space locally for that, to keep people isolated and away from others, and that they are extending the time frame that students can stay on campus in student housing. A lot of them, you know, if they're testing negative, are leaving town, and they were planning on leaving, you know, the finals end after this week. So that's already happening. If they're negative and released, they're already leaving town.
All right, and I hope staff knows that if they need to hire, if you need to hire more people, just, you know where to come for the money. No, it's really important that whatever we can do, that we provide the resources and all right, thank you very much.
This Omicron here forcing the numbers up so fast, quickly transmissible, it may just overwhelm our contact tracing ability. And yes, we could try to get more people, but from what I've been reading, and Lisa, you may know this better than I, but a lot of them have no idea where they contacted people that had COVID so that they can even trace them. It's a dilemma that we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, on the bright side, you know, being that our student population is in the course of going home for the holiday break, that will limit the number of cases, we hope, and we have, you know, we are prioritizing a sampling of community cases for sequencing to determine the impact of Omicron locally. So, but those are extra steps in the process, so we won't know for a while the community impacts of Omicron yet.
students are back, I think, what, the 17th of January or something, so it's not all that long out there. Martha, would you want to say something again?
Yeah, we better not just focus on the students. Isn't it something like half of the cases are community members? Or a large,
Half of the positive cases. I'm not sure the percentage. I think it's less than half. It's a little less than half. And we're not, I mean, we certainly, like I said to Ann, I heard this morning, we are caught up in terms of our case investigation of the numbers that we are, that the health department is working on.
I think a couple days ago it was half. So, I mean, it's a significant number of community members. It's not all students. So, and unfortunately, more of the community is not vaccinated. Then Cornell was 97% vaccinated. So, all right. Thank you very much.
I just mentioned that we were glad to have Frank Krupa represent us on CNN National TV this week. He did a good job. Anything else, Lisa?
I think that's it from administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for her? Facilities, we have a resolution. I don't see a rel or no, I don't see a rel, but I can see Drew Raymond, and this is an amendment of a resolution that we already did. Who wants to talk to us about it? Drew?
Yes, the amendment is actually just to correct a typo or calculation error in the green facilities project. When that was originally presented, it didn't quite add up right. So this just corrects that. There's no change in scope. There's no change in projects. It's all still the same.
Someone want to move it and get it on the table?
I'll move it.
And is there a second? Dan seconded. Questions or discussion? Shall we vote? Dave?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote yes, that's unanimous.
Rel is just joining us now.
Sorry?
Rel is just joining us now.
Oh, okay. Morning, Ralph.
You may not have heard you.
Good morning, Ralph. You there? Yeah. We'll pick him up in a minute or two. Let's go to airport. Roxanne Noble's with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do you want to report anything to us this morning, or do you want us to go ahead with the start talking about the consulting agreement?
I can just throw out there too, this is kind of back on the, COVID. I've had many people reach out to me having a hard time getting an appointment for a booster in Tompkins County. If you reach out to Tioga County, so for instance, a week ago, CVS had probably 30 appointments each day at the time I was checking for individuals the last couple of days. So if anybody or if anybody's looking for one within Tompkins County, make sure they take the search criteria farther out than just locally, and they possibly could get a booster if something they're looking at doing.
Suggestion. Well, why don't we put the resolution on the table? Someone want to move the award of a 5-year engineering consulting agreement for the Ithaca Tompkins International Airport. That's ID 10568.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Dan's moved it.
I'll second it.
Seconded it. Well, we got Dan moved it and Dave seconded it. Thanks, Glenn. We'll come back to you for another one. You want to talk to us about this? It's a little different process than we usually go through for the consulting agreement. So you want to talk about it?
Sure. So the contract had actually expired back in June. We extended it for 6 months to get the RFP process out there and the request for qualifications. We went through and I have Josh Nally on here as well. He can speak to any other stuff as, we've reviewed the proposals. CNS, has done a great job for the airport. Continuity, I think, is key. The FAA does not allow us to, they look at every project and we have to do an independent fee estimate with other consultants. So if we wanted to use another consultant for a project, we could, but we always have to check the prices. So they're always in line. CNS is always in line or lower than the other consultants that do an independent fee estimate. They're local, they're close by, they're on site at a moment's notice. They go above and beyond. We have a great relationship, which I think is key. And with the current changeover here at the airport, I think it's one thing to just keep, stability here with the engineers that we've been using and with the projects we've got going. They do small projects right through to large projects, but they still have like a smaller family type feel, home type feel. There's one person we can contact with anything. They have on site their disadvantaged business enterprise program, which is key. We can, contact them directly. Some of the other proposals indicated, that they use a subcontractor for those functions, which would be difficult when you have to have reports to the FAA, being able to one key company to contact. I just think it's, something, that I support and would like to stick with CNS Engineer. And at any time, we can use another consultant if we feel it's necessary, if we feel that, we have too many projects going on, CNS can't, handle something. We can always reach out for a different engineer. We don't have to stay with them, but this just gives us, easier so we don't have to go out to bid for every project that we're doing.
Roxanne, were there other submissions from other engineering firms?
Correct. There was one from AECom and there was one AECom and Global Employment Services. AECom is out of Amherst and Global Employment Services out of Selkirk, New York.
I'm just remembering back a few times ago when the full committee reviewed all the submissions. I remember sitting up at CFR building and reading through 4 or 5 of them back then.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get a bid from Passero and we didn't get a bid from McFarland Johnson, which are 2 more local firms, and that surprised me that we had just gotten the 3.
Josh, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm all set, Mike.
Other questions for Roxanne on the process or on this consultant? We've had this consultant for a long time. They've done a lot of work for us. We all are always unsettled about the engineering contract consultant process, but it's laid out for us by FAA mostly. All right, shall we vote on it then? Start with Dan.
Yes.
Glenn.
Yes.
Ann.
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
I vote yes. And anything else, Roxanne? Dan's got a question.
Roxanne, can you remind us when we think the New York State airport grants we're gonna hear about?
I believe in the summer. I think it's actually going to be later than we had anticipated. Maybe spring, but my guess is more closer towards early summer.
Thank you.
Any update on the new food service at the airport? Are people using it?
Absolutely. So I've heard nothing but great comments. They do an amazing job, not only with amazing food, but their customer service is beyond stellar. They're taking care of people. If there's issues with flights, they're feeding people. They have great specials that they do. They're just a really amazing group of people that have the same values and, you know, that we were looking for in the cafe. Anybody gets a chance, come on up and have lunch. It's amazing.
I think that's important that the community be reminded of that, that you can go in there and have lunch. You don't have to have a flight, go into the, go through security or anything like that. You just go into the main lobby area.
And they, you know, you can get stuff to go, but they're also planning on, you know, setting up food for anybody that's working, you know, over Christmas or, you know, to come and eat, any staff. They were like, nope, you know, to be able to eat, they're, you know, they're going to be missing their families. We need to take care of people here that are providing services for the public, and, you know, at no charge. They want to, you know, just be able to take care of people, which is a great concept.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks to you and Josh for being here, and I guess we'll move on. Well, actually, we're going to move back a little bit. Aurel, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We already took care of your resolution, but are there things that you'd like to report to us about?
Yeah, I mean, this was the resolution that is for our green facilities improvements. And so I think it was coming back for a correction from what I understand. We are actually going to be meeting next week to get an update from the Johnson Controls engineers and Terry Carroll to see how we're progressing with the detailed design.
I've got questions for Aurel this morning. Aurel, I walked by the main courthouse where they restored the excavations there and saw where you painted for the new shaping around the trees of the compost and things, and I thought it looked really nice. But they did a great job.
Yes, I know they'll be back in the spring just to make sure that all the plantings take, and they were going to also add a few more plantings around the front steps because it was already late in the season for those. But yes, we've been very pleased with how the project turned out.
I did notice on front of the front steps there that there are some hedges there, some evergreens that didn't look like they've been trimmed this year. Probably.
Yes, and I've mentioned that actually a couple of weeks ago, so I'll follow up that with our staff to make sure that they are able to get to that.
That's great. Anything else for Aurel this morning? Thank you for being with us.
All right, thank you.
Let's go to Barbara Ekstrom of the Department of Recycling and Materials Management.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning, Barb.
Would you like to report anything to us, or should we just go ahead?
Just go ahead.
We have an information item, the capital payment summary report, I should say. Any questions on that? Right page here. That's on packet page 8AA. Okay. Then let's talk about the resolution, the budget adjustment providing for the purchase of reusable bags, recycling and materials management 10569. Get a motion on that? Glenn, we'll take you. I said I'd come back to you. And I need a second. Seconded by Ann. Thank you. You want to talk about it?
Well, I included a summary to this committee, which had already gone to a planning committee for information. And it's just, again, you know, to remind you, it's the local law that the legislature established for charging 5 cents on paper bags at grocery stores leads to funds that come in from the state to fund reusable bags for low-income residents. And this is just allowing us to move the money from where it came in at the, you know, from finance And it's just simply a budget adjustment to allow us to continue to buy these recycled reusable bags, which are extremely well received by those that have access to them. They're beautiful bags and everybody's happy with that. Obviously, at some point, as we see less and less money is coming in from paper bags, as more people use reusable bags, that, eventually that money will probably virtually go away. But right now we have lots of places, as I indicated, where the bags are going, and we continue to have additional outlets. And the way it works is our driver for the food scraps for residential drop-offs and public space area recycling is also delivering these bags. And he's extremely enthusiastic about doing it.
So what would be some examples of where they would be
Oh my
distributed?
goodness. I don't have my list, but Loaves and Fishes, a lot of the food pantries. It's going to, so many that I can't think.
Okay, that's all right. I just kind of wanted to get.
I mean, I have a list and it's, it continues to grow, OAR, and there's just so many nonprofits. And you've got one, have you had a chance to get those bags to the citizens there?
No, but I'm gonna get some, Nancy's helping me to the low income, some folks that are at the senior.
Yeah, yeah, that's
low
what I
income
meant.
apartments in my
Yeah.
district.
We're also going to be giving them to low-income apartments that qualify that we're working with for the food scrap composting. Well, I think we have about 15 to 20 depositories where these are going, and there are going to be more and more added as people are contacting us and we're contacting them. DSS is another one as well.
Okay, we're ready to vote. Dave,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Glenn? Glenn,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Anything else, Barbara?
That'll be it for today. Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
I like Ann Corman's background. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good holiday.
I guess I don't know what the background is, Ann. Ann's got her hand. Did you get to talk what you wanted to, Ann?
It was actually, in between Barb and the next one, I had a question.
Oh, well, go ahead.
So I was just thinking about what Arel had said, and since he's still on here, he said that the resolution was to correct something. And I was just wondering, did he say what the correction was on that resolution for the various capital improvements?
I think Drew said it was a mathematical error. Is that correct, Drew?
Yeah, we're not sure if it was a mathematical or just a typo.
And
It seems
where,
to
what specifically was that?
in the total for the green facilities plan,
The 6,245,000?
Yep. yeah, the detail didn't add up to that. So in the original presentation that you guys approved, I think in October.
Okay. Any idea what that was before? I'm just thinking, questions we might get from the full legislature or the community.
It says it right there on line 38, Ann.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not quite awake, but
Good morning. Let's go to Jeff Smith. Jeff, nice to see you.
Good morning. Yeah, nice to see everyone. Don't have any action items today, but several information items. the first one on there is having to do with Game Farm Road and the rail trail meeting with the East Ithaca Recreation Way. Amy had let me know at the last meeting that the rail trail people or the Black Diamond Trail or the whole system people came, and I know Dryden Rail Trail was an aspect of it, and it was discussed on that last meeting that there was like one of their goals and one of their priorities was to get that crossing on our county road open and up and running. And I just felt that it was important to update the committee. And there's been quite a bit of things that have happened since that last meeting last month. And this basically, there's a lot of information in the packet, and some of it's really relevant, some of it's not today. But this packet I'm going to share with the town and both Dryden and Ithaca following up our Zoom meeting, which I'll talk about in a second. But I wanted them to have kind of the whole packet, kind of what we got from the meeting, so it was very clear. But I thought before I did that, and based on last month's meeting, I would update the committee on kind of where we're at. Basically, there was a plan provided to the county at our request by our agreement that they propose a safe crossing, whatever work needed to be done. We reviewed that. They did identify some features that were unsafe. If you're familiar with the road, there's a little dip, specifically there's a little dip on one direction to the north of the crossing. It was identified, and I think there was maybe some confusion. Previous conversations, the county, when time allows, I had made statements that, yeah, we would work to try and eliminate that feature, that dip in the road. But there was no necessarily time frame for that. So that the plan identified it, but if they want to open the trail, they also have to provide mitigating measures. And that was really the big reason and the large focus of the conversation. We had a Zoom meeting with both Town of Dryden and Town of Ithaca representatives on December 2nd. Coming out of that meeting, and this is all captured in this couple of memos here and things I'm not going to read. I'm just going to kind of talk it through. A couple of action items that came out of that I had previously offered, but it was, talked about again, and that we would survey and provide traffic data, that sort of thing. And then the towns were going to look at revising the plan to take into account our concerns. That's really mostly kind of the capture there. If you look through the packet piece on having to do with this crossing, there's some emails in there from Rod Howe and things. I mean, like I said, some of this really isn't relevant. It's really kind of for us, our reason to keep the package together. We've strongly debated whether I was going to give it, but it's the package we're going to share from the outcome of the meeting. So I just want to keep it all together, mostly for our record keeping. But you're certainly, read through it. It's there. If you have any questions, please let me know. Be happy to answer. Towards the back, there's our agreement that we signed with both the Town of Dryden and the Town of Ithaca. It talks about, our ask and requirements for the trail. And that's pretty much it. And I can answer any questions that you might have right now.
Thanks, Jeff. I have actually a bunch of questions and comments, so stick with me.
A bunch, all right.
Give you a little preview. So the first comments are about the map itself. I don't know, I really like a good map. I feel like it tells you everything it answers a lot of questions. So,
Perfect.
So first of all, like the trail location on the map is unclear to me. There's a word trail and there's 2 yellow lines. I'm not sure if they're pointing at something. So anyway, I'm just wondering if the map could be updated to actually show where the trail is.
You're talking about the aerial photo, right? I just want to make sure I know.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Packet page 24. Yes, I guess it is an aerial photo with.
Page 24. That's showing, we can add, we can add whatever at this point, but to explain what that is, it's just an aerial photo of Game Farm Road. It shows Stevenson Road and then Game Farm Road, direction to South Ellis Hollow. The trail is like a identifier to the crossing, and maybe it should say trail crossing location, but the end of the line is at where the trail is crossing Game Farm Road.
Right, I guess what I'm asking is to be able to know that without having an explanation, that there's a line on the map that's labeled trail and everyone knows that's the trail. Is that okay? I mean, but that's my request.
Okay. I think that's easy enough to do before we share it out. It's kind of been an existing document. To alter it now is a little, but we can do it. And then from here out, it'll have a little more information where it says just trail, but that's not a problem.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. It's the first time you've seen it. So it's certainly
It's the first time I've seen it, exactly.
Yeah, it's certainly fair. Yeah.
Thank you. And then, the same thing, it could also show where the trail continues on the other side of the road. I guess that would be the east side of Game Farm Road. Just so we have the whole picture.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have to enlarge it a little to show where it goes across Stevenson.
Or at least where it exits Game Farm Road. You know what I mean? Just whatever
No,
the aerial photo shows.
We can do that. I'm drawing it right now.
Thank you. And also, like on this map or this photo, if you could show where the bridge is. I know that's part of the equation here of how the trail races to the bridge. And I guess also if we just label Game Farm Road itself, it's not actually labeled. It's got 173 on it, but most people, including myself, will not know what that is.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, so those are the map things, and then questions. So there was some discussion in the email dialogue about parking, and so I had a couple of questions about that. Is there an existing parking spot there? There is, right? There's a place where like a small number of cars park.
There's an existing parking lot on the west side of the road off one corner of the bridge. I'm going to say maybe 5 cars are allowed there. We've asked, if you read, there's some section here, and the town of Dryden has already placed no parking signs on the other side of the road, on the east side of the road, where the shoulder is fairly flat, and it did provide cars. And we just didn't want to see parking unsafely, parallel parking along the edge of the road. It is a fairly well-used trail. I think it's eventually, as it gets open and more people are more aware of it and this crossing gets open, it's going to be reused. So we're really trying to think about, those issues that could happen now rather than when they happen and then have to react to them. And I think everyone is in agreement and aware that, having a bunch of cars on the side of the road along there, across from the parking, wouldn't be safe. So just to update you on that, the no parking signs along the east road are already there. The town of Dryden has already put them in place. I'm not sure if that exactly answers your question. There is parking for about 5 cars on the other side of the road, right adjacent to the trail.
So thank you. So in that, I just want to make sure in that discussion, they're not talking about eliminating the current parking situation. That was just the extra along the road.
Correct.
And then is there any opportunity in there anywhere to increase the number of parking spots? Because it is, I agree with you, it is a heavily used trail. I've hiked it and seen a lot of people out there. I'm just asking, is there any more room for cars anywhere or ever?
What we're hoping to do is, and the sign, no parking signs actually are directing this at this point, at the crossing, which is less volume, still, I believe 55, but it's a town road at the corner of Dodge and Stevenson. We're really close to where the trail, crosses another road, not very far away from this location. There's a lot of sight distance. There's a lot of flat road, and it's referring that that would be a better place to park. I'm not sure about creating an off-road parking has really been discussed very far. I don't know that that location exists in this area at this crossing, but could possibly, the whole surrounding is, well, the corner of it is DEC Game Farm, and then the rest of it, I believe, is Cornell. But if there could be, there's a lot of street side parking there now. Do you know what I'm talking about, Dan?
I think I do, yes.
And if we just showed the game farm where it crosses a little bit more on Stevenson, you would see what I'm talking about. And I have been by through there, and I do know, like, generally I've seen people using that crossing, and it's much safer. If it really got big, I think municipalities would want to get together and address it, but I don't know that that's really in the plans to do an off-site parking lot at this time.
That'll make sense. Thank you.
Can I just ask, Martha, did you want to say something about the parking? I don't want to shortstop Dan, but if you want to say that, go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of exactly my question, because you've also, in the memo, you also say, Jeff, that you recommend that the 4, 5, 6 spaces that exist, that they should be, I think, all designated for handicap parking. So that would eliminate all the safe parking. So it seems to me that we really need a real long-term solution. And if you send people to Dodge and Stevenson, then how do they get on the trail? They have to walk. Am I right? They'd have to then walk down Stevenson and walk down Game Farm before they get to the trail.
No, the trail crosses right at that location. They'd be parking right on Dryden Rail Trail, where it crosses Stevenson, rather than where it crosses Game Farm.
But they can't get to, if they want to get into East Ithaca, into going west, if you park at Dodge and Stevenson right now, and until we have a solution, you have to go down like maybe a mile of road that's really hard, really dangerous to walk on to get to the trail that exists. Right now, if you're at Dodge and Stevenson, you can go like a half a mile on the new section of trail, and you get to the blockage at Game Farm, and then you have to come back. If you want to continue on west into Ithaca.
What we're hearing here, Martha, is that this issue of parking really needs some more discussion and probably proposals on that. So I think all of that would probably be good for Jeff to know about. Let's go back and for the rest.
If I can just, Mike, I'm sorry, if I can just finish. I mean, right now, there are a number of places where you really have to take, a bigger solution and acknowledge that there are going to be a lot of people using this, these beautiful trails. So I'm kind of nervous about just sending people to Dodge and Stevenson, even in the next number of months. So is there no way to get people off the road enough along Game Farm that you'd be okay with that?
No. And the crossing isn't open right now, so there really is no other solution. If they want to use East Ithaca Trail Road section, then that section's open. And if they want to park at Stevenson and deadhead at the Game Farm and then come back, that's their option. So it's 2 trails right now. The crossing is not really open. So until this plan and these steps get put in place for the safety of everybody, there really is no crossing there at this time.
Dan, you have more questions?
I do have one more.
I mean, and then putting people out of Dodge and Stevenson doesn't solve the problem. That just sends them further away, and they're still going to cross Game Farm if they're trying to get to the western part of the trail. I don't see how that helps.
Well, I think the answer is when the trail crossing over Game Farm is complete, then this problem will be solved. That's the problem right now. We're trying to solve that problem. Once that's solved, everything will work. That's how I understand it.
I think we need some more parking on Game Farm somehow. All right. there needs to be a really important, multi-jurisdictional look at this. Thanks.
The only thing I'd like to add is the specific parking lot that's there. We're only recommending that as time allows and it makes sense that it go to handicap. We don't control the parking. We don't control any of the parking on any of the roads. So any of the parking, that's just what we're recommending. As a county, we don't control the parking. Just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dan.
My last question was about something that's on packet page 32. It refers, in a memo, it refers to under the bridge. Highway Department provided accommodation under the bridge away from traffic to facilitate a future uninterrupted connection between the two trail segments. Can you talk more about that?
At the time of construction of Game Farm Road, this is back a few years ago. This was Ed Marks out of our planning group. I believe that, and this is a more familiar name now, Leslie Schill at Cornell. And because Cornell was a stakeholder in this, they paid for some of this bridge. This was from the old Cornell monies for infrastructure improvements. So Cornell was a stakeholder with this construction. So they had a part in it. And it was requested that we provide a bench. Now this is very rudimentary at this time. It's just large stones with big gaps between the stones. It hasn't been filled in, but with the construction, it was economy we set in the plans for them to create a bench that goes under the bridge that could provide a possible option for the trail to cross there. And this was way before Dryden Rail Trail had really developed. But this was, I believe there was talk of it. I mean, certainly that was the reason for it, but they wanted to see that. And they wanted to keep the option open. Had we not done it, it would have been difficult. So that's the reason it's there. There's a bench. If you were to go out on site, carefully kind of navigate across some of the larger stone riprap and get under the north side of the bridge, you can see that there's a bench there created by, like I said, very rudimentary, unfinished looking, but all it is a flat, and I'm saying bench, all it is a flat section of stones that go under the length or the width of the bridge. There's no other trail created. There's no other. We met outside. Martha could add to that. There was large concerns from Cornell in the natural areas that would get disturbed by any kind of work to reroute the trail and go under the bridge. On the Cornell side would be the east side. There was also concern with DEC. I'm certainly speaking for the other folks in the room now, Martha and Dan, but there would also be concern for DEC and creating any kind of trail system over and above what they'd already gained at the time of the meeting, what they'd already gained access to, which is the old rail bed, which is that section of the Dryden Rail Trail. So it is something that we wanted the study to look at. That's why it's there, because of its existing nature. And with the rehash of the study, we'll see where it goes, but that's not a sticking point. I don't want to make it a sticking point. I want to make it very clear that it can be a safe crossing across Game Farm Road, or it could possibly be, but I think a lot of people are deterred by the effect to the natural environment, some of the natural areas of Cornell and the DEC limitations they would put on use of their land. I'm talking about making the trail match into the existing.
I just want to make sure I understand. So there is a potential, theoretical, completely off-road crossing of Game Farm Road, but it involves the DEC and Cornell and construction and money and all those things, if that were, those are all the stars that we need to align.
You have it correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark, I see your hand, but I see Dan Lamb, Deputy Supervisor in Dryden. Dan, did you want to comment on this at all?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. Regarding what we were just talking about, I think one of the concerns about trying to go under the bridge would be redirecting pedestrians. It looks like, I don't know, about 100 yards to go under the bridge, and people would be crossing anyway at grade. So we've got to take up this as a at grade crossing and do the plan. We've decided in Dryden to get a quote and a outline prepared by Barden and LeJudas, engineering firm we work with quite a lot in the town of Dryden, and I expect to get that today for revising the crossing plan. And I want to get that before our town board meeting tonight so we can appropriate the funds to do it. And so, you know, we're looking to correct any deficiencies in what was presented as soon as possible, and get to work on this, because I'm very concerned about people crossing right now and the exposure there. And, you know, we want to get this safe and secure as soon as possible. So it's a real priority for the town, and both towns, town of Ithaca, town of Dryden. So that's been in development this week, is just to get B&L involved and to cross all the T's, dot the I's, and get this back to Jeff Smith for approval as soon as possible. I've got to jump off, so I just wanted to, if you don't mind, I'll say a word about Freeze Road Bridge, if you're interested. If not, I'll jump off, but I got a 10 o'clock call I got to get on.
Go ahead, if it's short.
So not a big surprise that Freeze Road Bridge had to be closed. That's why we applied for the funding back in 2016 to replace the bridge. You know, we knew that this could happen at any time. And, you know, it's over 100-year-old structure that's there right now. And it's historic. A lot of people don't realize the historic nature of the bridge. And it takes a whole different level of scrutiny from the state and federal agencies involved to do a project like this, as opposed to the other projects in the town of Dryden. So it's very detailed, working with the cultural affairs folks at DOT and Federal Highway to get a plan in place. But, you know, we've never stopped working on this process. It's not like things were shelved or put on hold. It's been a continuous process trying to move this thing along. We've got a plan. It's in stage one of about a 6-stage plan to get the replacement project done. Right now, we're working through a findings document that needs to go back to the cultural resource folks in the agencies for review. This is something that's, you know, part of the Section 4F process. The findings document is out for input with from our stakeholders. We'll get that back, and then we'll revise the findings document, approve it by the town board, and move to the next stage, you know, which has to do with, you know, revising and finalizing the design report and getting design approval. Then we've got to design the new bridge, and that will take months with review from DOT. We've got to advertise and bid the project. We've got to get the new material fabricated prior to arriving on site. And then we've got to do construction. So this is going to be a long process, and we need to be upfront with the public about this. You know, we're probably not going to put this out bid until next fall, and then we can't build in the winter. So we're looking at construction in 2023, and it'll be a bridge that's going to be there for decades, maybe a century, like the last bridge. So these things, you know, take time to be done right. As many of you probably recall, we're also working with a intermunicipal plan with the village of Dryden to move the historic elements of the bridge to Dryden. which is going to be a really interesting, cool thing to do. So the Dryden Iron Works legacy can be honored because, of course, they built this bridge, and the trusses will be put on display there. So it's a complicated process. It's going to take a while. It's something that we've known all along. And we're all going to be hearing a lot from constituents. And I think we already are about how upset they are about this disruption in their travel. And we've just got to be upfront about what we're dealing with and try and all be on the same page if possible. And
thank you for your comments, Dan. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Martha?
I've got to jump off. So unless you guys have questions for me, I've got to say goodbye.
Anything for Dan before he leaves? Thanks, Dan. Have a good holiday.
Okay, thank you.
Martha?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Dan if this had, I think the process would have taken as long if the 2-lane bridge were to be built, because there still would have the whole historical evaluation and what to do with the existing trusses and structure would still have to be dealt with. So
You might think that.
anyway, so I'm glad he articulated that, and he was involved in many more of the steps so far than I was, but I was involved in a lot of it as well. On just to go back to the trail going under Game Farm Road, if you're standing at that area, you know that there's a big elevation difference between the trail and the creek. So I don't know the feet, 30 feet maybe. So in order to get the trail to match and to get down to the level of the creek and fit an ADA required slope, there would have to be quite a lot of geometry. The trail would really have to start, quite a ways away from Game Farm Road, then slope down towards the creek on one side, and then the same geometry on the other side. That's the issue where there was concern about how much natural area would be disturbed. And it just seemed, and it really, we were, as Jeff said, at that time, we were fighting with DEC to even let the rail bed itself be used for the trail. So there was really no expectation it'd be possible or wise to even try to get that much larger space to be able to be used for a path to the creek. And then at the end, we thought, people are still going to find their own way and just make their own paths and go directly across Game Farm Road at the street level anyway. So sort of standing there at the road, it's really clear to see all of that. And that was, as Jeff said, that was several years ago. And, that stone bench exists, but at least it's not something where you've got destroyed so much of the natural area to get to it. So that's what that involved.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to say on this, I really appreciate Lisa, if you could pass on to Amy her help in facilitating this meeting with Jeff. Jeff, we appreciate your having the meeting with the trail folks and other folks. I think that's moving us along at the pace we'd like to see it move along, because we know the pressure that's out there from the public, and we don't want anybody hurt, obviously. So thanks to everybody who's been working on this. Jeff, can we go to your next item, the highway road work map?
Yep. These are drafts. These are prepared by staff. We'll talk about the road map first if we want. You can see that this is for our road work in next season, 2022. Wow. The dark blue highlighted or overlaid roads, they have arrows and labels. Sometimes it does get a little confusing because we put the road names together and then sometimes it's hard to see the arrow, but it's there. We've gone through a few revisions. Not that there wouldn't be any errors, but this is our hope and our priority for paving and preservation chip sealing. That is in the pink color. Our goal is to do approximately 30 miles of chip sealing every year. This past year in 2021, we did almost 40 to make up for what wasn't done the previous year. We also did a lot of paving this year. We really stretched it out. Some of the rollover funds from that came from the shy year, the COVID year, plus the bump in CHIPS funding really gave us a big hit, and we were able to spend it all, get our maximum. If there's any rollover, it's less than very few dollars, less than $1,000 when all the chips end up falling. So we've really been able to spend all of our CHIPS allotment for this year. Across the state, that was a big goal to work to prove that when we are given the funding, we are able to spend it. It gets right back out into the community quickly. That's not held for years and years with other. We battle with parity with New York City, and this is getting really off subject, so I'm going to be quick, but there's some transportation groups in New York City that are allotted large amount of funds that have trouble spending them. And we key into that, and that's some of our arguing points. Anyway, so us being able to spend all of our CHIPS allotment this year here and across the state as much as possible is a big deal. Takes a lot of work to get it down. So anyway, this is our plan for next year. It's a plan. As we are more aware of funding and things, it gets tighter. We kind of start setting a schedule. We see bids come out in the spring that gives us a little ability to tighten, what we're actually going to get done. So it's still very preliminary. I want to always emphasize that. But if you want to know about a specific road and where it is on the likelihood, I'm happy to talk about that. Specific conditions, things like that. Generally, roads that we might be on this map that we didn't get to this year are, I don't want them to roll another year. Once they make it on the map, we're going to keep them on the map until we get done. That's kind of my spiel that I say every year. So that's the road work map. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer on that.
Dan?
What's the blue and the pink? What's the difference?
Up at the top, it describes paving projects, which is actually a hot asphalt overlay of some nature. Could be mill and fill, could be a polymer overlay, but it's hot asphalt. Going to be like a new road. And then the pink is a chip seal, which is a preservation application that is like an oil and stone. And that's just filling cracks. It's keeping the road, the base of the road dry so the water isn't penetrating, eliminating or preserving, keeping away potholes and everything like that. That's the difference between the blue and the pink.
Okay, it's not on our map. I don't know if it got cut off.
Yeah, it's cut off.
Oh, it's up at the top. Yeah, it has to be 11 by 14, I think, if you print it on that. And I can, this happened actually, I'm remembering now. We actually had to send, I think, Kathy, a different version rather than enter it through MinuteTrack so you could see the whole size sheet and plan. For some reason, MinuteTrack, when I print it out here, I only get a quarter of it. I only get a small piece. It doesn't shrink it. So it didn't work for me either. I just used our draft plans to look at. So I'll do that. We'll get that to Kathy out and then ask her to share it with everyone. That kind of rings a bell. I think we had to do that last year.
Yeah, we'd certainly like all the legislators to have copies of of that come forward.
Okay.
Other questions, Ann?
Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Jeff, for this report. So you're saying for the maps, they're drafts, so they're not the final one? So should we print them out?
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
I was just gonna say, it's just wondering if they're the drafts and should we print them should we bother to have them printed out, or is there going to be a final version?
It's I call it a draft, but it's really like, it's a plan for next year, but there's pieces that we aren't aware of right now. This is what we want to do next
Sure.
year, but when we
Okay.
know the funding from the state, as far as chips goes, the cost of asphalt, a lot of things that are variable right now that can affect our plan, weather and, a lot
Right.
of things if we get so this is what we're planning on doing. Feel free to share it. I think it's just, and I don't really want to put draft on there, but that's the idea, is that this is an earlier version of what we're hoping to do. And I kind of coined that with, once the road is on here, we're not going to take it off until we complete it. So if we don't get it done next year, it'll be on the plan for the following year, and we're going to eventually get it done.
Okay, great. And then as far as sending this to municipalities, is it sent to the various boards? I know you send it to the highway departments, right, around the county, or how is that distributed?
This is our first go as far as sharing it with F&I. I don't usually start disseminating it to all the towns, but it is a key piece of information. We work off it a lot. We do share it a lot, and probably sometime early next year, I would send it out to the towns for their information. I don't know how much. I don't want everything. If you're going to do it, then I wouldn't do it. If you're going to share it with, say, the town of Ulysses or the town of Enfield or town of Newfield or Groton, something like that. But I will share it and make it known to the highway superintendents in the towns.
Okay, so I'm fine with you sharing it. Yeah, I guess that's a communication issue they have with the municipal boards, is that they don't get it, but really they need to get their highway departments to forward it to them when they get it, or have their legislator do it. But really, it's just a question I get every year about, is there a map from the boards? But if you're getting it to the highway department, right, then it's up to them.
I can share it with whoever. It's an email. It's very easy. I can share it with the supervisor of Ulysses as well. It's not a secret. This happened last year. I'll just send it to everybody.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, any other questions on this map? Let's go, Jeff, to your map on capital project.
Our capital projects. There's
This one too is cut off on some of it, so we can't read everything, especially on the left-hand side.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at it online on a separate monitor. That's the only way I can see it too.
So can you see the legend, you would call it, at the top?
No.
Not on the printed one.
Okay, well, sorry about that. I wasn't aware. I think it gets entered exactly as I can see it, but something happens in the transfer. Blue projects are federal aid projects on the map. The one blue project that we're showing that's going to be happening in 2022 is Etna Road. It's out to bid right now. Whenever it'll be possibly January's meeting, we will be able to accept a low bidder, maybe February, by the time the state gives us the okay to approve the low bidder. There is some process because it's federal aid, but it is out to bid. That's a good thing. And it's looking like it'll be a project next year being built. We also have in process, if you remember our last round of Bridge New York projects that were under the culvert category, we were awarded 6 culverts. Those we've been talking with the state, and the state is administering and managing those projects. We have, if you recall, have had to come up with larger 1.7 million local share. But with that 1.7, we're capturing almost $4 million is what the Bridge New York culvert funding was. Those are planned to go to PS&E in February. At this point, we just had a phone meeting with them last week. PS&E is kind of the final step before bidding. This work is also at this time planned for next year. It is really kind of out of our hands. It is being administered and managed by the state. So they kind of just let us know on schedule. And there's been a lot of, by putting all these 6 culverts together under one project, there's each of these culverts crossing, not every one of them, but I believe most of them have required like even small little triangular takings of right of way at the corners. And you multiply 6 times 4, it created a lot of it. Some of them, they ran into some issues that delayed. So what we had is like one project, one culvert area, one little tiny slice of land that we have to require using federal aid guidelines, really delayed all 6 projects. And that's kind of where we're at now, but there's been some ability to finalize that, and it's looking like it's moving along. That's the reason we were trying to do them this year, and right of way really was the reason we couldn't do them this year. So I'm always, as you know, trying to get things bid this time or early in the spring for the next year's work, the seasonal work. So that's the hope with these, but we'll keep the committee posted as it goes along. But at this time, they're planned for next year. I wish you could see the whole map, but we also have, this is kind of an announcement, just came in, an email came to me late yesterday. I shared it with the committee and a couple large groups. I've shared it with all the towns. A lot of them also submitted applications, weren't successful, unfortunately. But we were successful for the Podunk Road Bridge in the town of Ulysses. It's a $3.8565 million award. And the other,
Has some pull, wasn't it?
sorry, what?
I just said Ulysses seems to have pull. I'm only kidding.
Ulysses and Dryden. I don't know how Dryden, they got another bridge, and it's all good news. It's a county bridge on a town road. It's Genung Road. It's a little over $1 million award. It's a relatively small bridge. It's a 2-lane bridge. Like Podunk is a 2-lane bridge, which we're glad about. And so those are awards. This is very early on. We have a lot of steps to go, as I think everyone knows. But last capital project update, I worked a little bit with Jason earlier, then I worked with Lisa quite a bit. And we actually included some line items for all of our submitted applications. So what we're going to do this time is we'll have to move some things around when we update our capital plan. We'll make it reflect the funding that we're receiving for the Podunk Road Bridge. And we'll actually create one for Genung Road for the town so that it's planned out. We'll look at whatever the estimate is, just like our resolution, the 20% max. So we'll have the funding in place. That's the plan anyway. I mean, it certainly can be adjusted, but that's the plan, or at least what I had talked about with earlier, Jason and Lisa, so that when as these bridge projects develop, we have funding in place, and we're very early on both of these. It's only one other local project with the town of Dryden. We could have had dozens, literally, with the variant, we had, well, not dozens, but we could have had almost a dozen if all the bridges would have got awarded. I think there were 11 bridge applications total across the county. I was starting to look at I sent everyone the email if you want to look at the link, and it looks like they really balanced it out. It's about the same amount of funding as last round, but I think everyone is now more aware that the cost of everything is just really escalated with the process, with the times, with everything going on. So, and then everything over is local share. Everything over your Bridge New York award is local share. So all those things combined, I think whenever someone submitted a project, it was very high. It was a very safe number. The estimates were elevated to reflect a very safe number, because it might not be this year, maybe 2 years from now that you're doing it. You don't know what the financial environment is going to be at that time. So a lot of projects weren't ever across the state now with the program. A lot of things didn't get done because they estimated too low. A lot of local governments were very stretched to try and finance, like Bridge New York, paying that local share. We were very fortunate enough with the Bridge New York project, 6 culverts, to keep them going by updating and showing that we were willing to pay that $1.7 million. That's a lot of money. And we're very fortunate to be able to do that. A lot of the counties and towns aren't able to continue those projects. So what they do is they end up losing that funding. So getting the 2 is a good thing. It's better than nothing. Wish we'd have had more. It's just a little bit over $5 million for Tompkins County, the 2 bridges combined. So it's a pretty good hit. Those will become, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say congratulations on the success for those 2 bridges.
Well, it's not just me, and I appreciate it, and I will certainly pass that on to all the people that are involved with the application process. I really appreciate that.
We know there's a lot that goes on, and please do pass that on. We appreciate your work.
I will. So that's the big announcement, and
there's a couple of hands up. Let me just see if that's
okay.
This hand.
Thank you. I'm just, I don't know if you know the detail on this. I'm just looking at one of the ones in Ulysses for the bridges, the Podunk Bridge replacement, and it says it's between Swamp College and Perry City. I guess I didn't even know there was a bridge there, so it must be pretty well hidden by the road. It's not the one north of that where there's a steel deck bridge, right? It's just, or do you know the detail on that?
When you go over it, you're like, oh, I know this bridge. It's a truss bridge. It could have historic ramifications, but it's a 2-lane truss bridge. It's a pretty large span.
Well, then I'm wondering if it's incorrect on the map, because there's one north of Swamp College on Podunk, where it's a 2-lane steel bridge. That's steel deck bridge that, right, you're going over that. And it's really narrow.
I will tell you that it's in the wrong location, and you are good to be able to point that out. And it's over Taganic Creek. So I know that it's on the northern piece of Podunk, like you're talking about.
Right.
It's
yeah.
not,
So
it's not there. It should have, the line should be about 1/2 inch longer.
Okay.
That one slipped through our review. Thank you. We'll adjust that.
And do you know if that's going to be replaced with something a little wider? I mean, I'm just thinking most people around here, if you see somebody coming, you actually wait, because it's pretty scary to have 2 people go over it.
Yeah, it will be wider. I would guess that federal aid funding and everything else, there'll be minimum required. There's data that reasons what your width is to follow design standards. But I can safely say that there will at least be 4-foot wide shoulders, likely 6 across that bridge, in addition to like 11-foot lanes. So yeah, it'll be a lot wider.
Okay, great. Thank you. That'll be safer.
Arthur?
And thanks, Mike. Jeff, don't worry about those applications going to waste. There's the federal infrastructure bill that I'll put a link in the chat to the NACO page that describes that bipartisan infrastructure act that was signed into law in the fall. 110 billion in money just for roads and bridges. So there should be other opportunities to apply for those projects. And I would imagine I think the turnaround, what I hear is the turnaround on those things is going to be quick. So every application you have ready to go, you could just maybe change the dates and you'll have that opportunity. So, and I also wanted to take a moment and thank you very much for sort of moving forward the Game Farm Road survey and the traffic count information. You know, that'll be a real help to the towns to make sure that gets going. So thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Anything else for Jeff on this issue?
Dave McKenna has his hand up.
Oh, hi, Dave. Go
Hey,
ahead.
thanks. Jeff, you got any idea how many bridges we got left to repair in Tompkins County? I know we've done a whole bunch of them in the last 10 years.
Yeah, we've really done a lot. We have 106 bridges. We had no problem finding good candidates. We submitted for, we submitted for four bridges. We only got one. The Cortlandt Street Bridge is in Groton on Main Street by the lumber. That's gonna need some funding. That's an expensive one. That was with Bridge New York application. I'm definitely listening to what Martha's saying. If we can secure some funding in another way, we're gonna definitely go after it. Down the river, Taganic Falls Road, just above the falls of Taganic, we have a big Arch County bridge. That's another really big bridge that, it's not falling in, it's not posted, but it's going to need some attention in the coming years. It's been in our capital plan. We kind of keep extending it based on, we look at the condition and, other priorities. So it's on the radar. We have a couple big projects out there, some large bridges that are going to need to be done, or something done in the next few years. To say how many we've done, I know I think it was one of my first budget meetings, that we were at the old courthouse, and Mike Lane knew exactly how many bridges were in the town of Dryden. And
Third of them.
it was almost 9 years ago, and I had no idea. I didn't even know how to get to the town of Dryden. I knew I drove through it, but didn't know how it was such a big town and it had all these bridges. It was probably in the first month that I worked here. And, I don't know if you saw I certainly felt very white. I don't know if my color changed or not. And Mike was like, we have all these problems with bridges and we have all these bridges. What's your plan for bridges in Dryden? And I've been waiting a long time to say this, so I'm enjoying this very much. And I said, I don't know, I'll certainly take a look at it, Mr. Lane. But I'm happy to report we've done a lot of bridges in Dryden now. Dodge, Red Mill, Mauryville, many bridges. Janung now is coming up. Game Farm is half in Dryden. So we've been able to make some pretty good headway. And there's certainly more to come, but thanks for that. I wanted to share that.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for reminding me.
Yeah.
Anything else, Dave?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, anything else on the bridges?
Not now.
All right. Oh, Dan's got a hand here.
So just real quick, we started to run through the categories. So blue is federal aid projects.
Yep.
And then the culverts, is that the yellow?
The culverts that were applied for were yellow, which we did not get any.
Oh,
The pink, and you're gonna get a better version of this.
yeah. Just a quick
At the
run.
top, there's a whole color key, but yeah, the pink is the Bridge New York culverts that are underway presently that are planned for next year.
Okay, so the pink is underway. The yellow is applied for but not gotten.
Yep.
And the green,
The green were the bridges that we applied for, and we only received the one award.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, can we move on then to capital payment summary report? You've got a couple of payments to Silver Line for Central Chapel Road Bridge. Any questions on that, folks? Okay. Then we were just going to ask if you could just kind of go through about why we needed to close the Freeds Road Bridge. Had a little talk from the deputy supervisor of Dryden, and I'm glad that he explained that, because we've been getting emails blaming us for the whole thing. And it really isn't us, but.
Yeah, I mean,
What happened?
yeah. We received a red flag, an additional red flag from the state who had done the inspection. And they had found, since the last inspection, additional deterioration, additional holes in the forebeam. They provide photographs. If you go out there, they actually highlight bright paint. So if you walk and you look down through the deck, you can see where the deterioration is. I know you're all aware that we've had several red flags that we've addressed over the last several inspections. And this time, the determining factor to close is kind of lays like this, is that because of all those red flags, and we're actually working with B&L when we get this stuff, because they're so familiar with the bridge, because they're working with Dryden. So we're talking with them, and they've provided us with recommendations on how to keep it open. And that's been for the past red flags. So this time around, the bridge presently is posted for 6 tons. The lowest you can go is 3 tons on any structure. That's going to limit to, if you think about the weight of an average automobile, that's close to 3 tons. I mean, you're not, a large truck, any box truck, any kind of vehicle over that bridge would be in excess of 3 tons. So we could have, with some expense, asked B&L to provide a repair plan that would require blocking, replacement of steel, a lot of different things. We didn't even get that far to try and enable it to keep it open to 3 ton. It's been determined by our concerns. It's a long structure, and 3 tons with the amount of traffic on it, it's not, in the state was very in favor of us closing it rather than trying to keep it open for 3 ton, only to have it closed next time, because you're not going any lower. I think it's time to do it. I don't know that we could find a professional engineer to stamp the bridge to keep it open for that. It was like, we're not approving that. It really got to that sticking point. It was a maybe. And when I kind of talked with John Weber, our engineer here on staff, who's very familiar with structures and things, my experience with bridges and, all those things combined, it's the time to just close the bridge. It's very unfortunate. I know it's an impact. This department's also received many emails. I don't think there's anybody to blame on the timeline. The historic nature of the bridge is really what it is. That's just the way. I kind of try and answer back in a positive note that, hey, at least the good news is there's funding. It is a project. It's actually identified as a project. It could be, and I can, we're very fortunate here in Tompkins County, and there's a lot of other counties that they're just closing bridges like that, every couple of months. So, I can speak with personal experience of a North Country county that, would just close this bridge and not have funding in place and be searching to try and get it open again, possibly. So, that's really kind of the story, Mike. If you had any questions, I could try and answer them.
I just thought we should be on the record about that. Dan?
Okay.
Is the bridge open to pedestrians and bicyclists?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
I was thinking too that with the closure of the bridge, that maybe will make it a little quicker to build the new bridge, or to take the old one out and send it to Groton, because they won't be dealing with traffic at that point. That's my guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're at with that, moving it wise. Yes, the conversation was definitely more pointed with the state and trying to get some things moving and help with this project, to move it along. I mean, it will definitely help with that. I'm sure, you know, they know. And we've been in contact. I'm sure the Dryden officials have been talking with them as well. Like, you know, we got to get this thing going. It's unfortunate, but that it's the other agencies other than DOT are really difficult to stay on a schedule. I'm going to say that. I mean, their work is good. They meaningful. It all makes sense. It's just, I don't know if they're short staffed or whatever, but when you send something to them, you don't know when you're getting anything back.
Martha?
Actually, I think I saw Glenn's hand first or after mine, but go ahead, Glenn.
Oh, just a note.
Sorry, Glenn, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, Lee Shirtliff is the chair of the committee for the bridge moving to Groton, amongst other people. So he's our new replacement for our county legislature. So he should know a lot more when he comes.
Yeah.
We thought you were going to handle it after you stepped down from the legislature. You were going to take over that. Not serious. Martha?
Yeah, my question about pedestrians was Dan already asked. I wondered the idea of moving the bridge, especially since Dan Lamb just said it's going to be 2023 till it's built. What about, and no idea if this is possible, but move the bridge that's existing, you know, off and bring a Bailey Bridge in? Isn't that, you were talking last month about the Bailey Bridge where in Newfield or somewhere. Is that like even a remote possibility?
It's too long of a span for the bridge we have. A big portion of it's in use right now, but regardless, this bridge has the center pier. So I don't know how that works with a Bailey. Bailey is a single span. So you'd have to have this is all shooting from the hip too, but you'd have to have that center pier able to hold the load of those two ends of that bridge, and be big enough and wide enough to hold it. You know, it's got to have a certain size. I'm not sure that would be a thing. I don't know that I would do it if they're doing it for a couple of years. I mean, that's kind of a longer term. That's, we'd go out and buy a Bailey Bridge. I don't know that'd be a big expense to try and for a couple of years. I mean, it's an option. If everything's an option, right? It's money. So, if the volume of traffic was much greater, or there was if it was a dead end road and some sort of vital access or something, I mean, I think that would justify it much further than what we're talking about now.
Well, I seem to remember that we're using a Bailey Bridge now, and last month's and I can't remember where it was. Last month's discussion was we're going to leave that in place and buy a new Bailey Bridge. Am I right? Wasn't that?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're not there yet. We don't have funding for it, but we have. The idea is to leave that bridge in place. It'll last. It's serving the purpose, that sort of thing. We can't buy any more components or pieces for that bridge to make it longer. That would have been what our goal was. Whatever we were using there, we could talk to the company. So as far as we'd have to talk to another company and have an idea of cost. That might have been discussed. I can't speak to the fact that we have funding or anything in even next year's budget to buy a Bailey Bridge. That hasn't been pursued. I'm not saying it can't, but that's
yeah, just that's the thread that I remember, that there was discussion that it's probably worth having a Bailey Bridge anyway. And since that one was going to be used, that there might be consideration of getting a new one. And it seems like maybe this would be a good location.
It would be. I would agree with that. By the time we get one, they would probably go into construction.
Okay.
Right. But we can look into it, but I don't know that we'd have to really, I'm kind of shooting from the hip on this whole discussion. I'd have to check into something.
All right,
All right.
Mark, you made the point, Jeff can ruminate on it for a while.
All right, thank you. Since this is my last shot, I just thought I'd mention it. Thank you.
Dan?
Yeah, one more quick question. Does anyone know offhand what the traffic count on Freeze Road Bridge?
It was pretty high. I can't remember the number, but that we talked about.
I'm gonna say it was between 2,200 and 2,600 vehicles a day.
Thank you.
That's
Okay, thank you for that update.
Yep.
Well, while we're still on bridges, something I was thinking about, and I just want to say maybe for whatever iteration this committee is next year, for a goal, they might want to take a look at the Newfield Covered Bridge. I don't think that we've had a lot of discussion, and certainly the last couple of 3 years I've been on this committee, about the Newfield Bridge, and it might be time to bring in the bridge keepers and again, and just kind of get an update on that next year. That might be a goal you could consider.
yeah, for sure.
It's still there, isn't it, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, it's still there. For all I can tell, it's pretty good shape yet since they rebuilt it.
anything else for Jeff? Jeff, thank you very much for your reports this morning.
Take the rest of the day off, Jeff.
I could. I just want to say,
You don't have that authority.
oh, my time card would reflect it for sure. I just want to say to the members of the committee that are, getting done at the end of the year, thank you. And it's been enjoyable working with all of you, and look to, run across your paths in the future as these issues keep circling around the county. So I just want to say thanks. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff.
Been a pleasure to work with you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Transportation, the only thing I had, I just mentioned that I did get a letter from, a copy of a letter. Again, town of Dryden, Dryden is trying to reduce the speed limit on George Road. That's of course where they just built a new bridge out there. And the process, of course, is they have to they pass a resolution of the town. The town then sends it on to the state DOT, and they do an investigation. And that's basically what the letter says. And probably all of us in our towns run into this from time to time, where you get a petition from property owners or other people using roads that they think the speed limit is too high. And that is the process. And more often than not, they don't reduce the speed limits, but sometimes they do. In that process, in my experience, that the state police have a lot of influence because the DOT asks them for an opinion about it as well. So if you're ever trying to get one looked at, you might want to also talk with the state police that are in the area about what they might recommend. And
Thank you. I know for Route 96 down towards the hospital in front of Little Tree Orchards, where we had a young girl killed a few months back, the Anna Kellis's office was able to just get make a request and have a study done on that area. But 96 is a state road, so that's a little different. And I just wanted to pass on too. We had maybe almost 2 years ago, we had a woman killed on Hates Road in the town of Enfield, and I just got a notice that somebody must have petitioned through the town that they're doing a traffic study on that road too.
thank you. Sorry about hearing about those folks that were killed. Okay, let's go to appointment. We have an appointment to the Hillview Road Citizens Advisory Committee, Joe Gagnon. Anyone need an executive session to discuss with that? Then can we just go ahead? Dan? On the move. Dan's moving the appointment. Is there a second? Seconded by Ann. Any discussion? Let's vote. Dave?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I'm yes. We want to thank Joel for being willing to do that.
Yeah, you know, if I may,
Go ahead.
I'm on that committee, and we just met the other day, we were talking about this. I can't remember the exact year this was formed. I think it was like 1990 or something like that. And Joel has been a member the entire time. In fact, there are 2 people that have been members the entire time. It's pretty impressive.
Used to be he and Dooley for a long time.
Yeah. Brian Caldwell also has been on the entire time.
As it. Okay, thanks for bringing that to our attention. Can we take the minutes of November 18th? And we'll
I'll move it.
Dave has moved and is seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. Dan?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yep.
I'm yes. There's budget adjustment and transfers for information only, year-end transfer request for recycling and materials management, information only, and budget adjustment transfer report requests. Any questions on those? Okay, that's towards the end. I have a couple things I want to say, and I want to add my thanks to everyone on this committee for a great year. I think we accomplished most of the things we wanted to do this year. We had some spirited debates, and that's good and healthy. We're going to have Dave and Glenn going off. Our legislature, Dave, you ably chaired this committee for a long time. Glenn, you've been a great member. So the legislature is going to miss both of you. And Martha, I think, has gone off. I was going to mention too that she's often been in the gallery here for us, and she's going off the legislature as well. So thank you all, and means a lot. We work together pretty well, I think.
Thank you, Mike.
And
Thanks, Mike.
hope everything is happy for you as you proceed to the next levels of your retirement. Ann, go ahead.
Thanks, Mike. I just want to echo your words, and I'm going to miss working with Glenn and Dave, and I really appreciate the respect that you give to me and your other colleagues, and put your all into doing what's best for the community. And as Mike said, I wish you well in the next endeavors, and thank you again.
Thanks, Annie.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks to Kathy and her staff for all the work that you've done for us this year. And I'm going to wish everyone to have great holidays. And I guess we can be adjourned. Thank you.
You might.
Have a good holiday, everyone.